This is a movie about Archie and Debbie's climb up the west ridge of Mount Conness, 12,600 feet high in Yosemite National Park. We'd been wanting to do this for quite a while, and finally things seemed to come together, except all of a sudden a fire broke out in Yosemite Valley. But we went for it anyway, since the fire looked to be quite a ways away, and the weatherman told us that the weather was supposed to be really good the day of our climb. The hike up to where we needed to set up a base camp took us about 4 hours. It was a pretty smoky view of the adjacent mountains, but it was still a nice day. Did rain on us a couple of times though, and we started to worry a little bit about the weather, but kept on going. We got up to our base camp at Young Lake, and that was about 10,000 feet elevation, and the clouds were up over top of the mountains, as you can see there. But we set up camp, and it ended up that things started clearing out. But it was pretty cold. After we made some dinner, we went back behind camp to take a look at Mount Conness. It was about, about 2-hour hike to get to the bottom of our climb, which is shown by this black line. And it started out fairly vertical with some technical climbing, and then after that it was sort of vertical, then low angle scrambling all the way up to the top. 1,800 feet of climbing. Next morning we got up real early, just before sunrise. This is actually moonset looking off to the west, and the red sky is due to the fire over in Yosemite Valley. But off towards Mount Conness, the weather was perfect, not a cloud in the sky, and it was clear as could be, so we were really excited. We had to hike cross-country to get to our climb. No trails. At one point we saw this little burrow with a frost all around the opening. We figured there was some little animal in there sleeping, and that was his breath that had frozen around the grass opening to his burrow. When we got to the bottom of the climb, it was about 32 degrees. We bundled all up. Both of us had our down jackets on, our gloves on, our long underwear on, and everything. When we started out, it was in the shade, which was pretty cold. But then after a while, the sun came round, which really boosted morale. And we went on climbing. It was, like I said before, mixed climbing, some vertical. It was right along the edge of the mountain there, with a 1,000-foot escarpment to the right. And we took pictures back and forth. This is looking down the climb with Roosevelt Lake in the background. This is looking back up, another one of the more vertical sections. We stopped frequently and had snacks and water. This is getting closer to the top. Things are starting to level out a little bit, but still a lot of scrambling on big boulders. We finally made it to the top after 5 hours of climbing. We were pretty tickled, and look at that blue sky behind us, not a single cloud anywhere. We took some pictures. These are some of the lakes below Mount Conness, different colors depending upon how much glacial melt has gotten into them. And we had some lunch, packed our gear up, and then started down. Hiking down started out with a little bit of scrambling on its own. Off to the left there you can see the Conness Glacier. It looks kind of dirty. It's all covered up with debris that's fallen from the adjacent cliffs. Then our hike down opened up into a valley. This is up above tree line. We went right past that little snow patch down there and got down into a little meadow area. This is actually a lake that's starting to fill in and will eventually become a grass meadow, but it was really pretty the way it was all puzzled design. We got back to camp, and boy were we happy. Archie started putting the gear away, and I started making dinner. Then we went out behind camp again to look at Mount Conness, which was turning a beautiful shade of red in the evening sun. Next morning, of course, we got up early again, but this time we drank our coffee, didn't have coffee the day before, and had our breakfast, then kind of looked at the scenery around camp. That's a picture of Ragged Mountain just catching the morning sun with a full moon beside it, both being reflected in Young Lake. Beautiful morning and another beautiful day for our hike back home. We got one last look at Mount Conness, That's the West Ridge highlighted there between the sun and the shade. It was a wonderful trip, and we were really excited that we got Mount Conness West Ridge done.